T-minus 30 seconds. Mark.
T-minus 15 seconds.
T-minus 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have engine ignition.
Engine start and liftoff. The SS Kalpana Chawla takes flight, sights set on the International Space Station. Pitch and roll programmer in.
Vehicle systems are nominal. Engines at 100%. Attitude nominal. Vehicle subsystems nominal. Engines are steady and nominal. 100%. Altitude 20,000 feet.
1 minute into the flight, everything looking good on Antares.
Passing through max Q. Attitude nominal. Engines at 100%.
Antares passing through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
50,000 feet. Attitude nominal. All vehicle subsystems are nominal.
Coming up on the 2-minute mark into the flight, everything looking good.
Just passing 100,000 feet. Attitude nominal. Vehicle subsystems nominal. Engines remain at 100%. Attitude nominal. Vehicle subsystems nominal.
Good reports from the Range Control Center at Wallops.
30 seconds to throttle down.
Throttle down is the precursor to main engine cutoff for the first stage. Coming up on the 3-minute mark into the flight.
Engines at 55% thrust.
Standing by for main engine cutoff on the first stage.
Main engine cutoff. Stage 1 separation. Attitude nominal.
Stage 1 separation confirmed from the Range Control Center. Antares flying straight and true.
Antares in coast phase until proper conditions for fairing separation and stage 2 ignition are achieved.
Fairing separation confirmed. Cygnus now exposed to the atmosphere as it continues its trek uphill to its preliminary orbit.
Stage 2 ignition.
This will be about a 2-minute 44-second burn of the second stage engine.
Attitude nominal. Attitude nominal, vehicle subsystems nominal, 140 kilometers.
Coming up on the 5-minute mark into the flight.
All systems continue nominal. Altitude 150 kilometers. All systems nominal.
The second stage burnout is scheduled at about the 6-minute 51-second mark into the flight.
Altitude 170 kilometers, roughly 1 minute to stage 2 burnout. Altitude 184 kilometers, all systems nominal, roughly 30 seconds to stage 2 burnout.
Six minutes, 40 seconds into the flight, standing by for stage 2 burnout.
Stage 2 takeoff. Stage 2 burnout.
And Cygnus has reached the preliminary orbital insertion.
Antares will coast for roughly 100 seconds prior to payload separation.
And as you heard, the next major event will be Cygnus's separation from the second stage.
Attitude nominal.
Cygnus has begun its journey to reach the International Space Station early Monday morning.
All vehicle subsystems nominal. Altitude 191 kilometers, roughly 1 minute to payload separation.
Liftoff occurred right on the dime at 8:16 and 14 seconds p.m. Central Time, 9:16:14 p.m. Eastern Time. The International Space Station and its 3 crew members who are asleep at this hour approaching the southwest coast of Australia.
Altitude remains 192 kilometers, roughly 30 seconds to payload separation. All systems nominal.
At the time of Cygnus's separation from the second stage, the operations will move to Dulles, Virginia, and the Cygnus Flight Control Room under the direction of Mission Director Zach Dwyer.
Cygnus separation.
Spacecraft separation confirmed. The SS Kalpana Chawla well on its way to the International Space Station.
CCAM initiated. Attitude nominal. LC, ace out.
All right, Ace, great job calling it out, and great job to the Northrop Grumman and NASA Wallops and everybody else, Mars, on getting this mission off in difficult times. Okay, launch team, we're going to go ahead and proceed now with our post-launch checklist. And prop lead, I assume 425 is already started? And prop lead LC countdown 1?
Yeah, we've already began our warm helium and cold helium purging.
Okay, copy that. We'll check 425 complete. GNC1 LC, step 426. Let me know when you've provided the Antares state vector to Cygnus.
LC GNC1, state vector submission and work.
Okay, copy and work.
LC?
Go ahead, LD.
LC, this is LD. I'd just like to thank the launch team for an outstanding effort. Way to go, team. Thank you, Mars, NASA, and the Antares launch team. Oh, and Cygnus, too. So thanks, everybody. Great job. Carry on, LC.
Thank you, LD.
This is Mission Control Houston. Cygnus now safely in orbit en route to the International Space Station. A perfect launch from the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. On the line with us right now is the International Space Station's Deputy Program Manager, Kenny Todd. Kenny, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Rob. It's great to be with you. Thanks.
Well, Cygnus now safely en route to the International Space Station after that launch scrub last night. Carrying some 4 tons of supplies and experiments, including a couple of nitrogen tanks. Give us sort of the big picture on what's on board Cygnus, why these nitrogen tanks are important, and some of the other highlights for what this supply run will mean for the international complex.
You bet, Rob. First of all, let me offer my congratulations to the entire Northrop Grumman team. It was a spectacular launch. I don't think you can ever get tired of watching these night launches. And as you said yesterday, creating the artificial dawn for a few minutes there, it's just gorgeous, just gorgeous. And the entire launch team there at the Wallops Flight Facility, again, they just do a great job at launching these vehicles. But yeah, we're very excited about having Cygnus off the pad on the way coming to the International Space Station with about 8,000 pounds of cargo, of which over a third of it is really committed to the science and utilization of the space station and really taking advantage of this low Earth orbit asset where we can do some things in microgravity that quite frankly we can't do anywhere else on the planet. So we're always excited to have new people coming to station and really trying to see what kind of things that they can learn in this environment. So you mentioned earlier about the nitrogen tanks. We were a little anxious to get this flight off the ground because of the fact that it had some additional nitrogen on board. As most people who follow station on a regular basis might have heard, we've been dealing with a pesky little atmosphere leak on board the station for the better part of 3 or 4 months now. Station in general always leaks a little bit, but over the last several months we've seen an increase in that, which anytime you're dealing with a leak on a pressurized spacecraft, you certainly want to know where it is, and you certainly want to make sure that you have enough consumables on board to feed that leak until you find it. And that's kind of where we find ourselves right now, as we're working through several different troubleshooting efforts to try to locate this leak. But getting these tanks on board certainly again helps us up our consumables in the nitrogen area and gives us a little more runway as we try to sort through this issue.
Kenny, the Cygnus vehicle arrives at the station pre-dawn on Monday. This kicks off a very busy period for the station and its crew. If you would, give us a little snapshot of the air traffic control pattern over the next few weeks with crews and vehicles coming and going.
You bet, Rob. Last year we were around this same time frame. I remember doing a press conference and calling last year around this same time frame the season of EVAs, because we were getting ready to swap out batteries, and that was coming with a huge series of EVAs along with fixing the alpha magnetic spectrometer and again another large number of EVAs. This year we find ourselves really with just a season of visiting vehicles, and it starts tonight with the launch of this Cygnus spacecraft. we'll get it on board here Monday morning, and then on the 14th of October, we'll see our next Soyuz spacecraft with our next crew coming to the space station. That particular spacecraft will actually perform a 2-orbit rendezvous on its way to the space station, which hasn't been done before with a crewed spacecraft. So we're pretty excited to see how all that works. And again, it'll be pretty amazing when you think about a crew launching from the ground here and roughly 3 hours later being on the International Space Station. So we're excited. That's coming on October the 14th. And then about a week later, on the 21st, Chris Cassidy and his 2 Russian crewmates will return to Earth after their approximately 6-month stay on board the station. And Kate Rubins, who will then succeed Chris as being the handler of the USOS segment, will have about a little over a week before we see the launch of the next commercial crew vehicle, which would be termed Crew 1, coming to the International Space Station with an additional 4 USOS crew members. And so Kate will be by herself for a short period of time. She's been there before. She understands space station very well and was an excellent crew member when she was on board several years ago. And so we're looking forward to getting her back on. But the crew size will jump on board from 3 to 7 about a week after she gets to orbit. So once we get the crew back up to 7, we'll have about a 3-week hiatus where we won't be dealing with arriving vehicles, but shortly after that, probably somewhere around November the 22nd, we'll see the launch of SpaceX 21, which is a cargo vehicle, and again bringing another several thousand pounds of mostly science and utilization to the space station. So this crew is going to be really busy throughout this full season, leading up to basically the end of the year.
And Kenny, finally, before that happens, we're just weeks away from a coveted anniversary on November 2nd, that being the 20th anniversary of a permanent human presence on the station. In the course of history, in your mind, how significant is that milestone in human exploration? What has it meant for the station and the international partnership?
You know, Rob, we for those of us that go around and talk around and to people outside our business, sometimes it comes as a shock when we tell them, especially the younger generation that for your entire life, you haven't known a time when there hasn't been somebody living off the planet, and in some ways they know that, and they don't see a world that's any different. But for those of us that have been around a number of years, going to orbit was such an amazing feat years ago, and to think we've been living there for the last 20 years is almost incomprehensible. But the thing that really strikes me, Rob, about the fact that we've had international crews living in orbit for the last 20 years is looking down at the Earth and seeing what all has transpired on the Earth in that time frame, with disasters and conflicts, successes and failures and things that have gone on around our planet. And in the midst of all of that, as an international partnership, we know no boundaries. And every crew member that launches almost will come back and tell you when somebody asks what you see when you look down, and it's you don't see boundaries. And that is something that over the last 20 years I think really hits home for me is the fact that even with everything that goes on here as we circle around this sun every year, we continue as a partnership to work together and do amazing things, and it's probably one of the most harshest environments known to humans.
Kenny, engineers such as yourself always say that space is hard, which it is, but tonight Northrop Grumman made it look easy, and Cygnus is well on its way to the International Space Station. Kenny Todd, the Deputy ISS Program Manager, joining us tonight. Thanks very much, Kenny. Appreciate it.
Hey, happy to be with you. Take care, Rob. Thank you.
Back here in Mission Control, the flight control team will be working throughout the course of the weekend in concert with Northrop Grumman's Cygnus engineers at the Cygnus Law Control Center in Dulles, Virginia, monitoring all of the maneuvers that lie ahead for the SS Kalpana Chawla on its approach to the International Space Station for its capture, scheduled at 4:20 a.m. Central Time, 5:20 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday morning. The first major engine burns are scheduled early Saturday morning to increase Cygnus's altitude to match that of the International Space Station, and the correct phasing to bring it into the neighborhood of the International Space Station on Monday morning pre-dawn. This is Mission Control Houston. To recap, the Northrop Grumman Antares rocket lifted off on time from the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. Launch pad 0A at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at 8:16 and 14 seconds p.m. Central Time, 9:16 and 14 seconds p.m. Eastern Time this evening. It was a perfect ride to orbit, sending the Cygnus resupply vehicle to its preliminary orbit en route to a 3-day rendezvous that will result in Cygnus arriving at the International Space Station early Monday morning. Our programming on Monday, October 5th looks like this. We'll start our rendezvous and capture coverage for Cygnus at 2:45 a.m. Central Time, 3:45 a.m. Eastern Time on NASA television. Chris Cassidy, the station commander, NASA astronaut, will use the Canadarm2 robotic arm to reach out and capture Cygnus at 4:20 a.m. Central Time, 5:20 a.m. Eastern Time. We then will take a pause and come back a couple of hours later for installation coverage, where Cygnus will be turned over to the robotic ground controllers here in Houston to install and bolt Cygnus into place on the Earth-facing port of the Unity module of the International Space Station, with our installation coverage beginning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday morning. So with that, we'll wrap up our coverage. Coming up just a moment or two from now will be launch replays of tonight's liftoff of the Antares rocket from Wallops to send Cygnus into its preliminary orbit. For all of us here in Mission Control in Houston, have a safe weekend, and we'll see you once again on Monday morning. This is Mission Control Houston.